Hello.
Hello. Again. How's it going? Oh, let's get this.
Yeah.
Okay, wait 1 second. So, are we
Man,
recording now?
what a day it's been.
What a day it's been, huh? Hot and not in favor of us filming this thing.
But और वो block सा हो गया ना? The whole day got blocked. Oh,
yeah.
man,
And
sorry.
then no, that's okay. We'll just have to actually अच्छा हो गया break आ गया because if we had to do that again,
Yeah.
it would have looked a bit forced. So now I can
Start
patch with it.
afresh.
Start afresh. What would you like to know?
So Imtisal. I mean, everybody by now with our little intro knows कि हमने सुबह कुछ mess up हुआ है. So हाँ हो चुका है. We met at 10 and the camera didn't work because it was heating up.
And we were talking
And we
like
were
we
talking.
haven't caught up in like years and
Years.
years, and we thought and we were actually over exaggerating the actions. Everything was a bit exaggerated, but
Was it?
all
Oh,
wasted.
come on. No, but you were really into it and I liked it so much.
No,
yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm exaggerated about. I'm very into it when I'm talking about myself.
So now, I just wanted to quickly भी नहीं, in fact, take your time, relax and do it. Like I find it intriguing. I found online that you are from Lums. So then it kind of made me think, Acha, that connects the dots of why you are so entrepreneurial. But is that where it happened, or was this already something happening before?
So Lums was something that was a second option for me. It was never like a primary thing. I was a pre-med student who was going into Aga Khan, but I got in and then I came to Lums and I liked it so much that I stuck around and my life trajectory basically kind of changed. But it was
Aga Khan.
Aga Khan,
Which
yes.
is major.
Well, and my teachers, if you still ask them, to hate me to date because I was the first person from my school who got in and didn't go,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
wanted me to go. So
Oh my
to
God.
date, they remember this that ये बच्चा था जो हुआ था और ये नहीं गया.
Oh man.
So
you broke hearts.
they really wanted me to go, and my parents are doctors, so it was kind of like a natural thing for me. But I, loved this whole life and not the academic side of it, but the whole culture so much at Lums that it just was something that stuck by me.
And where'd you get the flavor for wanting to do this on your own? Or in fact, where'd you get the flavor for event organizing?
So it started from school actually. I would say that it started way back. I say this to Fawad and Emily but all the time when we work now, that basically they were the first people who, because
Kind
of
of
which,
launched you.
Yeah, because of which this whole event career for me started because
Oh.
I did a concert in school when I was in A-levels in LGS, and back in the day EP and Uri were huge and they were rivals of the time, and we organized a charity concert which got them on stage together for the first time. It was a huge sellout event, and at that point I remember thinking to myself, it's such a difficult, stressful thing. Why would I put myself through it? In the process, I was thinking this, and then when it was successful and you saw the response of the crowd going crazy, I just thought to myself that I'm gonna do it all over again if I can, and
Like
that's when
that
I
was your
decided. That's about 20 years ago. Something I decided that this is what I want to do, and it's. I think I'm very lucky because people for a very long time are unable to figure out what they want to do in life.
Yeah.
And I found out at a very early age. I was sure that this is what I want to do.
How old were you?
17.
Amazing.
I was 17, and then Verve started. So then I went to Lums, and when I was 19, and then I was working with JNS for about a year and a half or something, and then 2007 November is when Verve started, and it was I was 21 I think at the time, so it's been a while. It's been 15 years actually. This is our 15th year
Amazing.
for Verve.
Isn't it like, I mean, I can relate because Maram and I were in first year when we started just playing around with makeup and photography as a team, and we fell in love with the concept of making this a career instantly.
Absolutely.
And we were like, again, we were also 16,
Yeah.
17, and in those years when everybody else is stressing about studying and getting good grades, we were thinking about like 10 years ahead, what are we going to be doing with our lives?
That, and also I think it just gave purpose at that point to you. It also meant that you are unable to do a lot of the things that students of your batch are doing, like going on school trips and college trips and things like that. You're unable, or just hanging out in the evening at college. That meant that I couldn't do that. And I never did, because I just never had the time to. But the upside of this was that when I graduated, I had a very successful running business. I was a horrible student because pre-med में जब maths किया और economics किया कुछ नहीं आता था, हर वक्त fail हो रहा होता था मैं LUMS में. And I actually, it's very funny. Now that I'm teaching at LUMS, it's very funny that when I was graduating, I was like, I'm never going to see this place again. And when you...
Why did you have that feeling?
Because I hated it. I hated the studies-based aspect of it. Otherwise, it was great. Like, the institute is fantastic. It's a wonderful place to be.
There's a lot of pressure there.
There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that's put, stress that's put onto students. And then on top of that, managing a full-time business which was based in Islamabad and Lahore was something that was really stressful and tiring. But I only did it because I loved it. So like 10, 12 years later, when my college kind of, शुरू में तो उन्होंने, as a friend of mine says, कि उन्होंने तो end में LUMS ने हाथ छोड़ दिए थे कि बस चले जाएं बाप, बस कर दे हमारी जान छोड़ में. Literally it was that कि बस अब graduate कर चुका तुम. Anyway, so once I did graduate, I really, to get your college to call you to come and teach there was something that was a bit of a surprise. So when you're from the other side of the table, it's completely different. It's a lot of fun. In the beginning, it's a bit tough, but I thoroughly enjoyed being at LUMS because of this. So it started from before LUMS. Verve started at LUMS, and then by the time I graduated, Verve was running.
So even though you were a bad student, or
I
would say
at
you're
LUMS.
great.
Before that, I was a star student, like A+ student, or throughout. I was actually a teacher's pet. I was a wonderful student. I've always been my family's, one of those
the
shining...
distinction?
Yes, always. I've always had straight A's, A levels, O levels, always. It's just that LUMS was such a different thing for me to... That's why, Akhan was a breeze for me. But LUMS was very difficult for me. Because
but in terms of what? In terms of just the amount of studying you had to do, or just the concept?
Catching up was very difficult because
you
students who were coming in were pre-economic students, math students. Catching up for me from a different analytical point of view was very difficult for me, and I used to hate and run away from maths. A levels mein ye hua tha ki actually physics or maths, physics is also a lot of computation and everything, but I forced myself to like it just to kind of get good grades. With LUMS, हर 2 महीने बाद नया subject, like in O levels, A levels, you're studying for a while and you kind of get the hang of the subject.
So it's chemistry. It's Chem 1, Chem 2.
Chem 2, but it's the same subject that goes on. Isme, every 2-3 months there's a new subject that comes in, and then you have to all of a sudden think again. So it was a tough one. But
what I was trying to imply, actually, I'm not saying you are or were a bad student in that regard. I'm just saying, were you busy applying those concepts? And that's why you weren't studying?
No. Basically, two things were happening. One thing was that I was not interested in the study aspect of it because of the nature of the subjects. I loved chemistry. People used to, we can go left. People used to hate, like, one of the subjects that everyone hated in my school was chemistry, and that's normally, I was a distinction holder in chemistry and stuff, so those subjects came very naturally to me. Biology, physics, all of these things came but I was not genuinely, it was difficult for me to grasp concepts. Secondly, the other thing that was happening was, obviously, events were happening when you're doing work which is real life work. कॉलेज के ग्रेड्स ना बड़े स्टूपिड लगते हैं आपको कि ये बकवास है कि यहाँ पे एक पूरा इवेंट क्रैश हो जाएगा अगर मैं नहीं पहुँचूंगा, एंड यूर लाइक कि मैं एक जाके पेपर दूँ, क्यों? सो लाइक इट्स जस्ट इन योर, इट्स नॉट अ गुड थिंग. किड्स डोंट ट्राई दिस एट होम, बट इट्स नॉट अ गुड थिंग. यू स्टिल हैव टू, माय पेरेंट्स वर सपोर्टिव, लाइक अच्छा कर लो, बस खत्म करो करके. इनफैक्ट दिस वन, like when you're in your college years, you're dabbling into different things. There's this one time I was also with Khabar Riaz, we did some modeling stuff together. I went to India for a shoot for a U-phone ad once. I think second year mein tha, main third year mein tha. So
how were you getting involved in all of these projects? Just through your network of friends?
I'm just
and your interests?
You know, all reasonably good-looking boys have a shock of doing modeling when they're in that age group. So it was just one of those things that I stumbled across Khabar somewhere, and he was like, "How मैं तुम्हारा portfolio बनाता हूँ." You know, he's so loving like that, and he grooms you and things. So he did this ad with me where I was. We went to India for a U-phone ad.
How fantastic is that?
And then we kind of got stuck in India because वापसी पे flights नहीं मिल रही थी. We had Mumbai में थे हम लोग और वापस आते हुए there was these storms that were happening. Flights cancel हो रही थी.
Oh my God!
I skipped 3 of my final exams because of the flight cancellations. So
it's a genuine reason.
It's a genuine reason, but Lums doesn't care. Lums is like, why did you leave? Like, I didn't have a retake.
Man.
So you know, when you're in college, you have these real hard realities which you have to kind of deal with, and you have to figure out what is more important to you, your work or. But the thing is that aista, I guess, if I hadn't if I'd completely let Verve go, I would not have. I wouldn't have been able to build up on the network that I had kind of built when I was leaving JNS. So yeah, that's what it was. So I think one of the reasons was that it was a difficult thing, but also because I was so busy working, it left physically very less time to study.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what it was.
But that's such a. I mean, मुझे खुद भी पता है अपना कि I literally when I met Maram and we started experimenting with makeup and whatever and the photography, we were, I mean, हम लोग normal हरकतें नहीं कर रहे थे. ठीक है? Then we would be out guerrilla shooting, you know, like on the streets. Or we would be experimenting with friends and ourselves कि अब makeup करिए. And बाकी लोग शायद फिल्में देख रहे होंगे and you know, whatever seasons were popular then and movies, but that we weren't. And literally now I think back and when somebody says, "Oh, have you seen that season? And how come you didn't see it?" I'm like, we were busy working.
Yeah. I mean, now we have some luxury of time that dekh sakte hain.
Literally.
But the interesting thing is now that I, you know, I'm sure you get this as well, that people who were your contemporaries or students who were studying at the time, you know, now hire a successful running company to organize things for them, like for you to do their photo shoots and stuff, and for us to do events for them, and they are at these managerial positions and things like this. So it's really cool that like eventually तो आपके बैच के ऊपर नीचे के लोगों ने जाके कहीं लगना होता है, तो so they have a frame of reference that you have been in this for a really long time. So it's really do I regret not doing all those trips up north and things like this? No, not at all. I had a great time in terms of I mean, there was a different outlet where you know, I was earlier we were talking, I was the student who was the go-to student who had access to all these parties of the time. Haveli pe jo party hoti thi Yusuf uncle ki, Basant ball, ye wo fulani kana. So you know, back in the day, students used to love ushering, and I would get them to usher at these events, and then uske baad party khulli. So people, I was like that cool kid who, you know, would be the person who would be able to take these people to these
amazing
cool
events,
parties and events. So I was always the person who would be the party organizer in some way or the other. It kind of led to this. So then when I started doing my own parties, it kind of was a natural transition that we started becoming popular for our parties, and starting off from Islamabad. So yeah, that's how it started.
How much did you retain any business knowledge from, or the stuff you learned at LUMS? Like, did you apply it at your work, or did you?
I've often thought of this. There's the only thing that's actually ever helped me in life practically, the only subject that's ever helped me, and I've said it a lot during college as well, was general paper in A-levels. So GP, the subject that you have in A-levels, really teaches you how to write.
Okay.
And I think that is one of the skills. In my line of work, there's no this basic spreadsheet banana, PowerPoint presentations. That's something not one subject teaches you. It's like multiple things that you use. But one thing that actually has helped me throughout a lot is being able to write well. And
for your pitch?
For various things. For fighting social media battles. Forget like pitches, even just social media battles, drafting proper
Legal contracts.
legal contracts, emails, various things.
Yeah.
So it's really one of the skills in life that is extremely important to know is writing well.
Isn't that so true? And I'm so glad you said that, because मैं अक्सर सोचा, I've never had the chance of discussing it with anyone, but I also feel that when there's something formal to be written, it's like my language changes.
Yeah.
And my and I'm just surprised at myself. Okay, wow,
I have
how
it
did
in
I
me to do this.
Yeah.
And
I sound so
one
professional.
of the things you realize that and you read it bar apne reply bar is when you are fighting with someone on social media and how they're losing it, like gali galoch pe aa jate hain sab kuch, and you are maintaining your cool and you are very in order and very coherently responding to what they articulate and responding to what they're saying. And that's when you put a pat to your back. Okay, shabash, achhi talim hasil ki hai. So it's good. That's one of the skills that's extremely important. Other than that, economics, I guess I'm not in that field where I really need to apply any of it. I mean, one thing that was lacking in my time was there was no place where you could formally learn to event management or PR, public relations, anything of that sort, which is what I teach at LUMS. So LUMS,
they created a subject?
They created a course. It's called Event Planning and Public Relations.
Oh, how amazing.
So for that, and because there's no coursework, I had to come up with everything.
Right.
So I had to come up with the entire kind of syllabus of what it should be. Again, no guidance, but just kind of knowledge and research from all over the internet, how it's done outside
and
Pakistan.
Your real life experience.
And my real life experiences. And that, with events and PR, it's a lot of it, some of it, very little is theory, but a lot of it is practical work. You learn on the job. So you don't need anybody who has any experience to come into the field. You just need to be extrovert, organized, efficient, and be switched on.
Right.
And the ability to work under pressure. That's the most important quality. How do you handle stressful situations?
Right.
So
and
that's it.
Like, how long have you been teaching this?
So
when did they create this course?
So this is an evening class that they have for and we abhi to beech mein to colleges band hoye the, now they're open again. They haven't offered the course again yet, but I started teaching in 2019, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there is
18 or 19. There's one course they were teaching, and they have like these really interesting life skill courses that what they call, which they are offering to, like pottery and gardening and
wow. I'm surprised that LUMS is softening.
Yeah. So they've really like expanded their horizons, and like there's these LUMS facade has completely changed from when we left. Actually, up to the other day when I went to LUMS, I didn't. 10 साल हो गए हैं मुझे निकले हुए LUMS से. I didn't. That made me feel really old. 10 years ago I graduated. It doesn't feel like it was 10 years ago. It was like yesterday. So it's a new course. It's a new direction in which they're offering life skill courses to students, which is really good because people with actual genuine interest kind of come in. One of my courses had like the largest, like there was the highest strength I've had was 40 students in one course, and that was a lot of students to handle. बहुत students थे वो handle करना. उनकी presentations, teaching them how to pitch and all of that. It was a very interesting experience. And first time it was really nerve-wracking because आपको stage fright होती है थोड़ी सी, in spite of the fact that you're way older than that, but you still have it. But then you get so used to it, and your teaching methods also improve with every session.
Yeah.
Studies had nothing to do with what I'm doing right now, and I think a lot of times this happens, but I guess unless you're doing a job. I mean, jobs में ये होता है कि फिर you बैंक में आप कोई काम कर रहे हैं या किसी multinational में लग गए तो चलो some concepts kind of get used. Especially I think MBAs gets really applied when you are in a job.
Right.
But not so much. Bachelor's level is rarely used. उसके बाद फिर MBA करना पड़ता है सारे बच्चों को जो भी job market में होते हैं. Because I feel like masters के बगैर job market में तो कोई आपकी जगह नहीं है. Like in terms of how high you can go up. So this is something that
now and before as well, right? पहले से 20 साल पहले से ही है कि minimum masters.
हाँ, अपनी that's the thing. If you're doing your own thing, then you don't even need bachelors to do it. But good to have a bachelor's ताकि एक ठप्पा लगाओ कि कहाँ से पढ़े हैं आप.
Right.
But other than that, for your own business, don't really need any of it, but for a job you need both.
I feel okay. I mean, unless you're taught at your business school in how to conduct yourself at, let's say, a meeting or whatever, and how to write, a proper proposal and I don't know, legal contracts and whatnot. Otherwise, so आपकी job experience ही आपको सिखाता है.
बिल्कुल.
So if you're
I also used to always feel again वही वाली बात ना कि जब फजूल सा econometrics का कोई एग्जाम हो रहा होता, टेस्ट हो रहा होता, and then there's some pitch for a big Pepsi event is going on, and then you're like, यार stupid shit है. इस यहाँ पे मुझे लाखों का millions का event की मैं pitch कर रहा हूँ और यहाँ पे ये shit exam चल रहा है. तो इसलिए वो बड़ा stupid लगता है उस वक्त आपको, but you have to kind of get through it. There is no two ways about this. और उस वक्त आपको अच्छा, and interestingly, back in the day, we also used to have, it was a very difficult thing sometimes because some of my teachers were, one or two of my teachers were Italian. Or either there's a Bahirsai or there's a foreign faculty visiting. So, we would become friends, and I would, in my group of friends, sometimes also take them to these Basant balls and things like this. So it was very difficult, I guess, for them and me as well, to kind of separate the informality that develops because of partying all night together, and then आगे जाके कल को D grade आ रहा है. How has, and then you also think कि D क्यों दिया इसने मुझे? कल तो party कराई है मैंने अभी. So you think that they owe you ना? So it's very interesting कि it doesn't work like this. So it's difficult to dissociate.
That is so fun.
So back in the day, when I think last parties we threw were 2014 were the liquor parties, जो Halloween, New Year's, ये वो जो होती थी. उसके बाद फिर the Nawaz government came, they started cracking down on liquor parties, and then the raves started happening. So from that lifetime ago, and we see उस वक्त ये there were a lot of people who would buy tables and lounges at our parties and stuff, and now those are the people जो कि अब कोई restaurants खोल रहे हैं, अब कोई Uber की app खोल ली, किसी ने ये खोल लिया, वो खोल लिया. And these are just, and I was speaking to Emma the other day कि we don't really get surprised anymore कि अब कोई नई चीज़ खुली है, वो कहीं ना कहीं से उसका कोई connection आपके साथ निकल आता है, because you've entertained these people at a younger age.
You've built some lifelong kind of connections, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's I think it's always been a thing because we've been in the industry which has been involved with entertaining people, nightlife entertainment, and that is really important to business community जो है हमारी, जो भी basically all the community which is doing something, entrepreneurs, people
corporate
in power
events,
positions are all people who have been through our parties at some point or the other, or they know who. So it's really it's a privilege. I consider it a privilege to be known for it, and कि अच्छा ये तो he used to throw parties and stuff, and his parties were really good. So that stamp of approval is something we've worked really hard for, of course, but also at that point when you're doing it now, उस वक्त आपको समझ नहीं आ रही थी what you're creating. अभी भी, for example, with I'll come to Wired later, but when you're in that process, when you're busy creating, you don't realize what you're or the impact that it's having. It's when you kind of are through it and you look back and you're like, oh, I also did this. Achha, in fact, the other day, I think ये net down था, Instagram वगैरह सब कुछ down था, कुछ अर्से पहले की बात है. तो I was going through my phone और उसमें ना कोई बहुत पुरानी memories की ना photo album में से गुजरा था. मैंने कहा let's do a throwback from stories from the beginning, like from the Lumps की first days. So Lumps 2005 से till up to date, it was a recap of all the highlights of my life in my photo album. So I was doing that, and there were things I'd completely forgotten that I'd achieved or had done.
Of
and
milestones.
And those were milestones that I had forgotten, because इतना कुछ आपने कर लिया होता है कि आपको भूल जाता है कि ये, and then you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that was a really good milestone we achieved at the time, and it felt really important, and it still does.
Right.
And you forget that you've done, and then it makes you feel, and I always say this to a lot of अपने student class को भी कि always stop, look back and reflect at what you've achieved, and talk to yourself that you are on the right path and you've done a great job.
Right.
Look where you've come. And it's so important to have this self-affirmation.
Right.
Even if you're not, it's important to get this from outside, of course,
Yeah.
but also important to remind yourself that in spite of all the difficult, situation, living in Pakistan, there's so many difficulties that we go through.
Right.
In spite of all of this,
Right.
like you guys, like
Right.
being women in a field which was predominantly dominated by men in the beginning, photography and all of
Monopolized by
this.
men.
Monopolized, right? So to be able to make a huge name for yourself, it's no small feat, and it's so important to recognize for yourself
Do you
also.
know that I think the only time I started realizing and appreciating what kind of impact Maram and I have made in the industry was only a few years ago. And
Because you're so busy.
that too it did not come from inside.
Yeah.
My husband sat me down and he's like, because I was preparing a pitch and I had to prepare a bio of Maram and myself. And he read it and he goes, "It's good, but do you not know who you are?" And I was like,
You're
"What do you
used to
mean?"
humbling it down.
And I honestly, and not just that, एक तो आपके अंदर सब में ही होता है, because we're, we don't think we're imposter syndrome वाली चीज़ आ जाती है, right? वो तो है माना, but also because while you are trying to do something or trying to make a mark, जो पहले किसी ने नहीं किया हुआ, आपको लोग भी वो एहसास नहीं दिलाते, and they pull you down and they put you down, and they don't want to highlight any of your, your success or your impact. They don't, because हमें किसी ने कभी भी while we had entered the market, nobody ever said, "Wow, you guys are girls and you're doing this." Nobody ever said that. They said, "Oh, you're the Atar Shahzad. Oh, you're the Khabar Riaz," and like they would find Khabar Riaz solo, but they would find a duo and say, "Oh, you're like DVs," and we're like, even we also just said, we're photographers. We're photographers. We never consider ourselves as female photographers. We're like, nay, we're always put in this fight, confrontational sort of situation by people.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's really interesting how like people kind of make you. There are people who, in my case, there have been people who've really appreciated. I mean, events is one thing, obviously nightlife changing. वो तो इतने साल हो गए कि events तो एक पता ही है कि अच्छे events करते हैं. The other things that are happening, which are newer projects for me, like Art and Wired, are two things that are newer things, and they're making impact in a different way. When we started doing Wired in 2015, it was something that was a bit of a rebellious event, because it really challenged the status quo of how music festivals are done in Pakistan, and it was the sound that Wired brought in to Lahore was a very different sound, and DJs hated us for it. Most of the DJs. It was dancey, it was very clubby, it was very happy, it was what they used to call it very commercial. Okay, so you would be at a fun music festival and you will hear like a remix of Madonna come up, or a remix of Celine Dion come up, or a remix Dua Lipa come up, that kind of thing, which normally doesn't happen at music festivals over here.
Right.
And it's a same kind of, respect to all sorts of music genres, but respect the fact that there is room and space for a new genre as well.
Right.
If I can respect your space. But then over time what started happening was that we started screening out the naysayers, and people, and it started developing a cult following. And it became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we started introducing these artists from outside Pakistan who... so 2016 was the first time I went to Brazil. And I went to Brazil and I saw this incredible... bunch of us friends, we all went together, and I went to this club called The Week over there, and it was like capacity of 6,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
And I went to this and I was like,
that's like a stadium.
What is this? How is this even? And I remember thinking to myself that I want to know who's the person behind this club, because I'm so inspired. At that point, I was so inspired by what they were doing,
able to create,
and what they were able to create, that fast forward 4 years, I'm friends with the owner now, and he knows my work. He loves the parties that we do.
Oh my gosh.
So for someone who's that big on that level to consider what I am doing in Pakistan was a huge high for myself. And then another one of my role models like this, who's a big international party planner all over the world, and he does what we do with Wired, but he does it internationally. I recently met him right before pandemic in Brazil as well. Knew who I was. Never in a million years I would have imagined that they would know what I do and the kind of and I think what started happening was that this is what's really exciting for me with Wired and art, is that it's making a difference, which Verve has made its place. It's there. It is going to keep doing these amazing events, blah blah. But it's what these new projects, the kind of difference that they're making, is what I'm really excited about, and the opportunities that this will have for myself
and for Pakistan.
Right. So I think हम कई दफा जाते हैं ये न्यूयॉर्क लंदन टाइप के जगहों पे जहाँ पे हमें पाकिस्तानियों को टैक्सी ड्राइवर टाइप के वो बिल लगा के आपको वो एक अजीब सा वो करते हैं, एंड देन यू काइंड ऑफ somehow अच्छा नहीं हम दुबई से हैं, हम इधर से हैं, हम उधर से नहीं, अच्छा हम अरब हैं. Brazil was the first time I flaunted that I'm from Pakistan. So meeting someone from Pakistan was a USP for me, it was something that sold me. And then just like what you were saying earlier, that you didn't realize until recently that you've done such amazing things. For me as well, when I kind of speak to all these now the artists that come here, and I was like, I was so surprised that these people knew me. I was like, baby, everyone knows you. I was like, what does that even mean? I mean, it's inconceivable for me, because when you're in that position, you are so busy doing what you're doing that you forget the impact that it's having.
You're just busy making the effort.
Absolutely.
And doing.
And you're passionate about what you're doing. So you're so busy with that you forget that it's having such an impact on people.
But that is so important that I want कि जो सुन रहे हैं ना लोग कि उन्हें भी पता हो कि the point is do.
Yes.
You have to do stuff.
Find something that you are passionate about. One thing I say to a lot of my blogger friends actually, and I find this is to be a constant point of irritation for me, be authentic. Find a niche, stick to it, but find what is authentic to you and then focus on that. Find what you're great at and find a passion that you are actually, which is you. And then that's
which is coming naturally.
Which is coming naturally, and only then will you shine.
Right.
You will always be mediocre if you are doing something that you don't love.
Right. In certain professions, being a copycat doesn't help.
No.
And it doesn't sell.
No. And I think we have a lot of times our events, things get copied and things like this happen all the time. And obviously, I mean, I find it's a huge compliment when somebody's copying you. It's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
So please keep copying as much as you like.
I agree, but then I've been told that, that magazine office in London has your tear sheets from your shoots, and they have it on their visual board for mood boards and creation, and I'm like, it's flattering, and in my heart I'm like, okay, you could also pick up the phone and call me to do that.
Yes. The thing is that people will always find a cheaper way to do things and copy your work and make cheaper alternatives of it.
Right.
What I say to them always is, there is plenty more where that came from. So keep copying all you want. There will always be more. So recently last year we did a Halloween party, 2 Halloween parties actually, 2021 May. After 2 years of no events haven't happened in the pandemic, so I was really excited about this theme because I've wanted to do an Alice in Wonderland for a very long time, and I've not been able to do it. And I was so happy the way it was turned out, and everybody who kind of came in saw immediately because 15 years of experience of doing events and somebody who's just started a year ago doesn't have that finesse in their work. So I'm very sometimes, but that competition ki wajah se, that also pushes you. There are times when I feel like, shit, this person has done such a good job. But my attitude now has changed a lot to that. 5 years ago, it would give me a lot of anxiety. If somebody was better than me, it would give me so much paralyzing anxiety that I wouldn't be able to look at the videos and the pictures.
How did you overcome it?
By changing my attitude. By changing my attitude towards it, because by looking at it as an opportunity to learn and make myself better. And there was always going to be things that you can learn and improve in yourself which are lacking. And if you close yourself off to not seeing other people's work and how they are doing better, you never A, grow with the times, and B, you never improve your own craft. You know, I travel extensively, and I have been since, I think 2010-11 is when I started traveling a lot. So, and I'm a very observant person, and I see and notice things a lot, and I try to bring it back.
Right.
And how can you, why have Verve's parties always kind of had that thing?
Edge,
always
yeah.
was because there's a lot of things I keep traveling,
Right.
learning and bringing back and
Right.
applying it here.
Right.
I think one of the biggest examples has lately is wired events that we do, and how the lighting is done, how the stages are made. These are things that I've all kind of, nobody's taught me, but
Right,
I've
but
learned
observation.
by observation.
Right.
So these role models that I kind of keep meeting on my travels are people whose works I'm critically analyzing. जब
And studying.
वहाँ पे आप जाके लोग ऐसे enter हो रहे होते हैं, party
Right,
कर रहे होते
right,
हैं.
right.
I'm noticing कि भाई यहाँ पे ये मिट्टी की
Wiring की-
बजाय इसने tiling की हुई है.
हाँ.
So, you know, these are
Right.
little things that make the experience of the entire.
Right.
So, but that's what the job of an event, good event manager is.
Right. You know, I get really जब सुनते हैं कि बाहर भी कभी किसी कॉन्सर्ट पे स्टैम्पीड हो गया या कोई आग लग गई, यहाँ पर जैसे कोई स्टेज गिर गया, are you able to have your construction work and all of that done according to
You know,
any standards you keep,
yes,
safety standards?
Some of the, fortunately, in 15 years अभी तक कोई बहुत बड़ा कभी भी हादसा ऐसा नहीं हुआ. मतलब छोटे मोटे कभी हो जाता है कि कुछ चीज़ लेट हो गई है वो, बट कोई एक्सीडेंट शुक्र है अभी तक as such कभी नहीं हुआ. Except for, I think maybe one thing that I do feel like is lacking in this country is कि labor की जो safety practices है ना, they
Right.
are really lacking. Like जो
Right.
electricians काम कर रहे होते हैं,
Yeah.
they outside Pakistan you cannot work unless you're wearing rubber gloves.
Right.
यहाँ पे तो कोई है ही नहीं. Electrician नंगे हाथों से अपने वो
Right,
कर रहा
right,
होता है.
right.
So there's been one incident where one of our team person was sort of electrocuted. सही हो गया था, but it was not a
Yeah.
not a pleasant sight.
Right.
And these are safety practices that I feel like when you're hiring a lighting sound vendor,
Right.
they should be implementing it themselves.
Right.
Because
right. you can't micromanage
एक बंदे
safety
को तो नहीं कर
for them,
सकते.
right?
But
Right.
you can micromanage it for your guests. Get the
Right.
experience is safe. कभी ऊपर से कोई लटकी हुई चीज गिर ना
हाँ,
जाए.
हाँ.
These kind of scares are always there. अभी तक
Right.
शुक्र है, you know, कभी कुछ हुआ नहीं. So I think one of the biggest fears we have in
Right.
this country is कि आपका event बंद ना हो जाए.
Right.
That's one of the biggest fears you have because इज्जत का मामला होता है really.
Yeah.
I mean, local event or something else. वायर टाइप के इवेंट पे बाहर से आर्टिस्ट आए होते हैं. तो एक दफ़ा ये हुआ था कि वन ऑफ दीज वायर्ड इवेंट्स, यू नो, इवन दो वी गो थ्रू एग्जॉस्टिव मेजर्स टू गेट परमिशन, सिक्योरिटीज, एनओसीज, एवरीथिंग डन, स्टिल न्यूसेंस वैल्यू इतनी ज़्यादा है लोगों की यहाँ पे कि कोई भी किसी को अंदर ना आने देना. हम करा के देखते हैं कैसे होता है ये इवेंट.
What?
So, you know, like, this is the attitude
Yeah.
people have. You don't let them in, they start calling 1-5. And we have these aggressive kind of laws, which sound का
God.
कोई एक law है जो पता नहीं कितने 1900 किस में 80 में enact हुआ था, where 10 बजे के बाद sound in loud sound नहीं हो सकते or something. And उस
Not that anybody follows it.
Not that anybody follows
But
it, but
when-
if a call
but if
goes
हाँ,
to 1-5,
then
they
they'll
have to
bring
come and
that.
stop you.
Right.
या sound ऐसे करे. वो भी वही वाली बात है ना कि पाकिस्तान में इतनी red tape है
Right.
that पैसे लगा दें तो चले ठीक हो जाएंगे. उधर पर आपको we're mentally prepared for all of those scenarios.
Oh gosh.
But still things can happen. So this one time, our event was about to end in half an hour, and this kind of situation happened where अच्छा, they came, they tried to stop the music. 5 मिनट के 10 मिनट के बंद कराया. फिर जी अच्छा नहीं जी सॉरी हमें तो गलत खबर मिल गई थी. मैंने कहा
Oh my God.
अच्छा, and at this time we had these singers who had come in from New York. तो उधर से वो हमने पीछे से मैंने निकलवाया उनको स्टेज
Oh
से.
my God.
Because I was like, listen, if something happens to these guys, this is
Right.
my responsibility. उनको चुप करके अपनी गाड़ी बैठा के we kind of
Smuggle
took it
them.
out. But so they were like, we were joking about it. It was very
Right.
stressful at that time, but
Right.
later on we were joking about it. And these guys were kind of, when I went to Brazil, they were recounting it at a party. Oh, you know, baby, we were at this party and this police came, and then, you know, we were running around, and it was, so it was, I mean, it was a joke, but it
Yeah.
wasn't funny to me. So, yeah, so, you know, these are things that the government and people like in official capacities need to support, because we're kind of trying to project a very different image of the country. What they know about Pakistan is they're extremely hospitable people, extremely friendly people, warm, and the culture is completely different from what we know and what we hear.
Right. So how did you reach out to them, and how did you like even pitch the idea of Wired as a festival? And
So it just kind of started out with events happening. So Wired started off with me hearing this. So this is a type of house music called circuit house
okay,
that we play at Wired, and it's a very specific genre of
Right.
house music. So I heard it, I think, the first time around 2014 or something in London. Really loved it. Brought it back to Pakistan and just kind of played it for a few friends at house parties, things like this. People really started kind of getting into it, and then we did our first. We call it Wired Zero
okay,
in 2015, which we had like 70 people or something,
right.
60 people. Big fun, super fun. And then we did Wired 1. Then I think Wired 2 happened, where I was in the beginning DJing, because there's no
my
DJ that
gosh.
plays this kind of music.
Okay.
We were having these pre-recorded sets that were playing. So that's how it kind of started developing. And then by Wired 3, I had already been to Brazil. And Brazil has a lot of these artists of this genre that play this music.
Right.
So the DJs, the singers, and all of these people. So there I kind of reached out to them myself, introduced myself, and brought back one DJ. And then from there, the next time we brought back 2 DJs, then 3rd DJ, 4th, and that's it kind of started snowballing.
Amazing.
So
that built your portfolio.
Built a portfolio.
Built your valid.
And for a very long time, we've not had an Instagram page either for Wired, because we've kept this event very private.
Right.
We've had a Facebook page which only people who on the page can search this page. You know, you have to be invited to be able to. That's what's kept Wired's brand name and exclusivity so high up, because
Right.
of the kind of crowd we attract and how organized it is. Only recently we've done an Instagram page just to kind of bring up to speed of what we've done. We intend on not making it this public in Pakistan, but the idea is that in future, hopefully in the next 1 year, I intend to take this outside Pakistan.
Amazing.
So that's the trajectory for Wired that's happening. So that's going to go, inshallah, international.
Amazing. And you want to let us know what destination you have in mind as a first?
Brazil is the first destination in mind. So let's see. Let's hope things work out the way I want them to.
You're on the right track. I mean,
I have a 5-year goal for like this has a 5-year goal in mind. With art, I didn't have a 5-year goal. Like it kind of was just kind of going from one thing to the other. And this Pakistan Art Forum started in 2014, but there was no. It just started because I loved art.
And because of your own. You already had your own private art collection.
No, it started after that. Just kind of, I didn't even know about art. Like I kind of was exposed to it around me all the time. होता art के साथ normally I feel I've seen with people is कि आपके अंदर art की को आंख होती है, वो बस खुल जाती है, फिर वो खुल जाती है, फिर नहीं बंद होती वो. और बस फिर it's such an addiction.
Right.
That
collecting.
It's an addiction when you see it. You have to own it. If you love it, fall in love with it, you have to. So I mean, the amount of money that goes for me on art and traveling is
insane.
You know, it's insane. But so 2014 is where Pakistan Art Forum started, and for a very long time it still is a space, a platform where artists, art gallerists, curators, art collectors can share and enjoy Pakistani art. So Pakistan Art Forum started off as just a social media platform, which was a way to connect artists and
with buyers.
Yes, basically, essentially artists with buyers,
right.
But also galleries to collectors, various people, and collectors to people. They can search for art, like new art. People are looking to start an art collection.
Did you feel, just as a business, you felt there was a gap? That there's no connect between a buyer and an artist?
Or yeah, well, I
kind
thought
of an idea was it?
Lovely kind of a space where people can share art and you can look at each other's art collections, but also kind of see. But it just kind of started taking a life of its own, and with Wired, it's a curated trajectory.
Right.
With this, it's never been curated. Even the art gallery was something that I was not toying with the idea until like a year ago, even. Even the website before that was not until like 2 years or a year before that.
Right.
So it's kind of just taken its own life, and it was developed only for appreciating art and having a space where artists can share their work. And then that kind of started becoming into this place where, I mean, we go and cover thesis shows every year all across Pakistan. So we do NCA, Pindi, Lahore, BNU. We even do University of Gujarat and Jamshoro and IVS and all these colleges and stuff. So we have reps everywhere that send us, and not just bachelors but also masters, mini thesis as well. Like Punjab University ka mini thesis we've just put up on the forum. So it's a great platform where it gives exposure to these artists who would never have that connection to a collector base.
And what kind of process do you have? Like, are all the sales and everything, if somebody's on the art forum, then they're done through you?
No.
Or they're just directly handling
directly. It? We don't take any commission if it's happening via the Facebook forum.
Right.
We are not involved. So we also then that means don't take responsibility. अगर कोई किसी artist ने कोई गलत commitment करके भेजी. So we made that there are these instructions on the page that we made it clear that we don't take any commission or any kind of fee for having this transaction via the platform.
Right.
But we also then don't take responsibility.
So then the gallery that you have here.
Yes, this is a separate thing. So with the gallery, we have curated shows every month. So we had 2 shows last month. We have another show coming up, and then until the end of 2023, we have a solo show or a 2-person show or a 3-person show. Every month we have a show until the end of next year. So that is that's how it functions as a gallery.
Right.
So that's no longer the ambit of the platform. It's a gallery as full time.
And you said you call yourself a curator, or are you a gallerist?
I would call myself an art curator and or a gallerist. But curator because I have been curating shows before the gallery existed. Now I'm a gallerist as well. But a curator before the and I've curated shows outside Pakistan Art Forum as well. So I would call myself a curator for sure.
I've, as a photographer, first of all, I've got a bone to pick with you.
Why haven't there been any photography shows?
What is it with gallerists not considering photography as art? Or putting up shows on fashion photography because you've got, since you travel so much, I'm sure you've come across Mario Destino ke koi ho rahe hain, kabhi Annie Leibovitz ka ho raha hai, kabhi
I have to show you something when we get back. There is this incredible artist, a photographer we discovered in Brazil. Somehow we kind of, me, Saad Qureshi, all of us, we went to studio and he does this incredible images, and I got his lookbook, or you know, that catalog book jo Istifa uski publish hui thi. I brought it back with me. I want to show you because you would be really interested in this. And it's art, it's art photography. Blown away by how, but you know, it's not that gallerists don't want to do it. It's the end consumer doesn't want to buy a print. That's the mindset that needs to change.
Now that
slowly I feel it's changing because there are ashna वगैरह का
mindset वो लोग वहाँ, यानी in the West, the concept is very popular.
Very popular, and it's really amazing.
It's like,
you know, you try and push it a little bit, but होता ये है कि अब जिस तरह, like not just even photographers, like even digital artists like Shazil, ये Begum Bano has picked up and stuff, and I think this very slowly that's slightly changing. But even somebody like, because you know this whole concept of this NFTs that has now come in, it's hard for people to grasp that this is real art, or the idea that this could be art. So photography, I think उससे भी एक step पीछे चला जाता है ना, because it's real, it's not created as such. So that's how people think that because it's not हाथ से creation नहीं हुई हुई, ये तो लोगों को place करके एक तस्वीर खींची हुई है. So I think that's how the mental process works for people. But I think that you know, from time to time करते रहते हैं, छोटी मोटे कहीं से show आ जाता है galleries का, because we get a lot of the catalogs from like various galleries across Pakistan. कभी कभी इक्का दुक्का एक show आ जाता है, बेचारा सा होता है show, but आ जाता है show. But it all boils down to the market for that particular show.
So now tell me, what is the current market? Do you feel there's any change? Is there any acceptance towards
for photography,
for digital art, for digital prints?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's slightly more. Again, also it has been why there is slightly more acceptance is because of the demographic that started collecting is slightly gone younger as well. So there's a lot of मतलब prints भी हैं, digital, these digitally animated. Some of them have also, for my next show in October, there are a few artists doing NFTs also. So I'm encouraging that. Even though for me, I'm a bit on the fence with NFTs. Are they art? Are they not art? But I'm not letting my own personal thing cloud the fact that it's something that I should be displaying at. So there will be some NFTs at my show in October. So yeah.
I mean, NFTs का तो एक वही बात है, we may not understand it, but we have to accept it.
We have to keep an open mind to it. Do I consider
it's
it
new
real
technology,
art?
man.
I don't know if I consider it art really yet. Maybe my mind might change in future.
Yeah.
But does that mean I shouldn't let it happen? I think no, of course not.
Yeah.
And also, like, I feel like one of the reasons Verve has kind of still stuck on 15 years on, because a lot of times, like, I've seen so many event companies come every few years. They come to their events, because it's not an easy business to be in. Is because A, to be open to learning, and B, kind of absorbing new ways to keep reinventing yourself. And that is so important with everything that you do, like in photography, I'm sure as well, like seeing what are the new trends, how are they happening outside Pakistan, bringing them here. We were late to join Instagram, for example. We were, I think, really late, but then really had to quickly embrace the whole social media change that quickly kind of happened, because if we didn't, we would be left behind. Like, how can you not be with the times? So, and I feel that's really important. That's why I think for NFTs as well, all this talk about it, that, I mean, I'll make up my mind about it later, but at least let's just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to keep going with the flow.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, I mean, if you're, I would say, agar to Verve in your case, perhaps it has evolved with Wired, with the Pakistan Art Forum, and now you've got, all of these are events, aren't they?
Yes.
These are all event-based businesses.
Yes, so the backbone is all event-based, yes. One of the biggest things we've done in our career is when Verve was splitting with its partner, 2017.
Which is how many years later?
10 years. So
that also happens in business. People separate.
And then you have to kind of, and this was happening when, and 10th year, 2017 was the most high-profile year of my career, because it had some of the biggest things we've done, but it had also the biggest event we've ever done, which was the closing ceremony for PSL at Gaddafi Stadium. That was the first one when cricket was coming home, So this is the first time, and 35,000 people को manage करना तो एक चीज थी उसके अंदर, but more importantly, what was happening was that we had to plan a closing ceremony show, which was a packed 44 minute situation where back to back there was a performance. There was a performance for and multiple artists. There were Ali Zafar, Fakhir, Ali Azmat, Overload, Farhad Humayun. सारे इन लोगों का back to back shows थे, बीच में dancers भी थे. So it was like a chock-a-block situation. So we had a spreadsheet, and then one of the main things that we were stressed upon by PCB was कि आपने you only have, I think we had exactly 17 or 16 minutes to dismantle the whole stage and clear the ground.
What?
That was the, and यहाँ पे ये नहीं होता कि वो wheels के साथ वो जोड़ के stage लगते हैं, यहाँ तो लकड़ी के वो construct होते हैं. So in about 12 minutes, I remember, we had to dismantled the entire लकड़ी का woodwork, वो 60 feet diameter का stage था in Gaddafi Stadium, जिसके ऊपर सारा stage लगा हुआ था, all of it.
How?
And the amount of manpower it required and the organized, and there was no dress rehearsal for this.
You can't have
because
it.
एक दो दिन पहले हमने stage rehearsal करनी थी for the stage, that you couldn't dismantle it and put it back together. It was just going to be that one time. and we got lucky, कुछ मसला नहीं हुआ और सब कुछ dismantle हो गया. वो 12 minute में we were out of the ground.
Oh my God.
And
That's
I was
amazing.
really impressed with my team that day. But it was so stressful. That day I was so exhausted because होता ये कि you don't have your cell phones because you know security इतनी high थी, फिर सारी सड़कें blocked, so that means कि कोई उस वक्त अंदर बाहर नहीं हो सकते आप स्टेडियम से, जो है बस एक दो दिन पहले हो गया, you just have to kind of deal with it. So in that so that was a year when you know Verve was also splitting, all of these things were happening, and this big event was happening, and there was a lot of eyes on us in the sense कि you know, अच्छा Verve split हो गया तो अब तो ये fail ही करेंगे, you know, like there was a lot of that happening, you know, there was a lot of naysayers, lot of negative energy, and I remember that I put up a status on the morning of when I was going to the stadium that, you know, guys, wish me luck, blah blah, and everybody had sent some really nice things, and then when there was a lot of our friends in attendance in the live stadium, and the response was just phenomenal. I'm so proud of that one particular, I mean, there's so many other things, but that particular thing that you know made us where we are.
Oh, wow.
So it was a highlight of like my career so far. So it was a great experience, but tough. It's stress, and that teaches you so many things. Going through that process of stress teaches you to remain cool in situations like this. And that helps in all the other fields.
Absolutely it does. And you breeze through, you know, the important stuff, which is you must have been contending against other companies, right? So how many other companies were?
I think there were 4 to 3 companies were from Karachi, Islamabad.
So, I mean, ये भी एक process होता है. You don't just get a phone call saying कि हाँ भाई इम्तिसाल तुम कर रही हैं, ऐसे नहीं होता. You have to pitch.
Yeah, you have to
and
pitch
get selected.
your ideas, your concepts, and for them to kind of trust you. You know, one thing that I've learned from bad experiences is that always take, and I teach this to all my students as well, always take your money 100% in advance. Because when you have to get your money after the event,
हाँ वो तो
400 कीड़े निकालते हैं आपके काम में, just to kind of get some discount from you. Corporate events different होते हैं, they always pay, that's a different thing unless you've really fucked up. So with these kind of events, so your private type state companies के events होते हैं ना, they always try to do these nitty gritty things. And उससे कुछ नाराज भी होते हैं कई दफा. अच्छा, in spite of signing a contract with you, you ask them for your money. They like कि क्या मतलब ये तो event ही नहीं हुआ. मैंने कहा अभी contract नहीं पड़ा था. नहीं जी आप event होगा तो ले लेना. मैंने कहा नहीं ऐसा तो हम करते ही नहीं काम. So like there've been times when I've had to like put my foot down. I'm like listen, I'm wrapping up, and then they pay up forward.
And for that, contracts and very important.
Extremely important to have those contracts in
place.
Does
it mean anything? Because अगर contract करके भी आपने भेजा फिर भी कोई अगर ऐसे कह रहा है,
ऐसे अगर आप पहले निकलवा लेना contract का कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, फिर आप contract हो ना हो, you just need to basically get your money out. That's what it is.
Well, that's for your security.
As a professional, you need to live up to everything that you've committed to. So
I mean, nobody's saying कि वो 100% लेके आप take a trip to
this is
London.
Unethical. But no, this is unethical. You still have, in spite of the fact कि आपने सारे पैसे आपने ले लिए हैं, मगर आपने जो commitment की, और PR के काम में ये होता है कि हफ्ता 2 हफ्ता 3 हफ्ता उसके बाद लग जाते हैं आफ्टर द इवेंट आने में चीज़ें, मगर ये नहीं हो सकता बीच में भूल जाएं आप. अभी टुडे we've just one of these clients we've just done an event for उनका कोई 2 हफ्ते बाद आज आर्टिकल आया और अब आई थिंक जाके उनकी कंप्लीट हो गई है PR. We got the money out from them a while ago, like the contract was not था, but PR आते time. But ये भी हो सकता था कि मैं कहता अच्छा पैसे तो आ गए, forget it. But that eventually in the long run is not good for your reputation.
Right. And do you face there's no way to put it like lightly or gently, kickbacks in it to get a contract?
Like, do you have to pay out to people?
Yeah.
We've not had to deal with this situation, but there are people who I've known in the past, who have accepted such kind of bribes and stuff. We fortunately never had to deal with this. I used to get really worked up when a pitching process was happening and I would not be able to get that particular event. मेरी तो anxiety की वजह से because I've always been very competitive. So it used to be
it would destroy you.
It would the pacing back and forth, phone पे trying to make it work कि मुझे मिल जाए किसी तरह से. And I realized that it's not doing nuksan to anyone but myself. So I need to calm down and learn to accept this. So these are things that you kind of teach yourself over time. कि यार
हर project नहीं मिलेगा.
हर project नहीं मिलेगा, and it's okay. And there'll be other projects that will come your way, and that's completely okay. So you have to kind of teach yourself. Overly competitive type A personalities को ना अपने आप को अपने ऊपर भी काम करना पड़ता है बड़ा ज़्यादा.
Yeah, we face that a lot in our work, that you know, especially with corporate big campaigns. पहले तो क्योंकि campaigns वही होती थी, major आपका होता है ना cash cow. Now तो you need so many photographs, right? With Instagram and all
because,
the social, it's like
every day there's a picture that has to go up, and
absolutely.
then you know.
So every day you can just shoot, let's say, 5 articles.
Right.
पहले तो बड़ी कम होती थी, but for those big campaigns, oh my god. And that's when we learn, and we'd be like, you know, पहले आ रही थी हमें इतनी सारी assignments, अब क्यों नहीं आ रही? And then we learned, oh, this
people
is
Kind
happening.
of under the table dealings are happening.
Yeah, because with the ad agencies and जितने भी फिर
that a lot.
जितने भी agents बीच में आते हैं आपके, and you know,
and that has happened.
I would say जिस तरह जैसे art में, ठीक है, gallerist या art gallery या you know, आपको पता है कि 40%, 30%, whatever your commission is, ये मिलना, ये मैं रखूंगा. तो अगर ये ट्रांसपेरेंट कर दें ताकि एटलीस्ट people like us also can contend.
I mean,
right?
If there's a finder's fee, that's something else. That's completely okay, and that's a completely like normal thing all around the world. But ये जो बीच में जो middle person, and that happens a lot of times. That happens because there's an ad agency involved.
Right.
Normally, like these, I'm not saying that that's they're the culprits behind it, because a lot of times the decision makers are people who are not even the corporate agencies themselves.
बिल्कुल.
बीच में marketing agency या ad agency होती है, वो आपको hire कर रही होती है आगे से. You're right, it's ऐसा होता है कि you have to kind of sometimes, but we've fortunately never had to deal with it ourselves.
Oh man, what a journey for you.
It's been a long journey, and it's
but you've kept it exciting, huh? By adding all of these new projects and new companies.
The next 5 years are going to be. I'm so excited. And it just keeps me going, and it's really fun, and it's kind of happened over time. It's my parents the other day were like, oh, we feel like you're not so focused anymore, and I had to kind of sit them down, and I was like, listen, 10 years ago, first of all, energies are different. Obviously when you're 20 you're a different energy level. I'm 35 now, and it's a different energy level, right? So secondly, I was like, listen, 10 years, 15 years ago, I was only focused on Verve. Now I have 3 businesses that I'm focused on, and to be able to do all 3, I need to work smartly. I cannot be doing पर्दे नहीं जाके मैं खुद लगा सकता या सोफे नहीं मैं जाके लगा सकता जो मैं पहले कर सकता था, because that was the only thing I was doing. Now I have to have project managers for all 3 and be taking reports from them. Like we have a PR department, just we have people who work with us, and I'm just a lot of times I design the PR plan with them, and then I let them execute it, because that's their job, and I just kind of take a report from them whenever they're not कोई issue में कहीं फंस जाते हैं. You're obviously there to help them, but that's the only way to do 3-4 things at the same time. Otherwise, you cannot be doing every single. And I say this a lot, that one of the biggest qualities of a leader is to delegate.
Delegate, yeah.
And unless you are delegating and you're trusting your team,
there's no way to scale.
There's no way to scale. I need to be not doing the itchy bitchies myself. Hang. Sure, I'll tell my team कि भाई ये इस तरह curation है, यहाँ पे ये लगेंगी, but hang it yourself and then call me जब line सीधा करना होगा सब कुछ. You know, these things you learn, that you have to learn to work smart. Yeah,
and you have to direct it. I mean, right now, that's something, because I'm reinventing what I want to do. I'm in that fix right now, because I'm doing the calling up of guests. I'm doing the research on them. I'm doing, just the
everything
gupshup.
It's all you.
कि मैं एक पहले वो build तो करूँ, ठीक है? उसके बीच में, it's hard work.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because then I'm doing, spending at least 2 hours looking for everything I can find on you, right? उसमें बीच में admin work, or if I put in the workload of editing.
Yes.
Like,
oh my God,
I mean, you can't. Even though right now it's an idea in its infancy. Even then, I can feel it. You know, this is really pulling me in too many directions, and I
Yes.
don't want to do that. I want to
Yeah.
focus in developing it, in kind of building it and making it stronger, rather than मैं अब admin task.
Unfortunately, शुरू में करनी पड़ती हैं
कुछ भी
चीजें.
करनी.
You know,
Yeah.
so when you're starting
Yeah.
anything new, there's a lot of things you have to do yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, this for me, this is why I think these things were related, so I could transfer
Right.
manpower from one thing to the
Absolutely,
other.
they were all
and
transferable.
They
huh?
were all transferable, so that was good.
Yeah.
But anytime there's a new thing that you're
Yeah.
starting, this always
Then
is a
you
thing.
have
Then
to.
you have to do everything yourself.
वो उसकी भी excitement होती है.
बिल्कुल होती है और जो आपको दर्द अपने काम का होता है वो और लोगों को
किसी
नहीं
को
हो
नहीं
सकता आपके काम का.
Right.
So when you're your own boss, then there's no timings, there's no weekend, there's no 2 a.m., there's no 10 p.m.
No.
So it's just, it has to happen.
And how has that been for you, being self-employed?
Challenging. Like pandemic was really challenging because, you know, there was no events that were happening.
Yeah.
So 2 years of that, and then we were still paying out salaries and we were still paying
Yeah.
out for the warehouses.
Right.
तो वो सब कुछ हो रहा था, so it was really stressful. But it kind of gave me the opportunity to work on art and develop this as a side stream of, like, you know, business. जो कि कभी भी नहीं होनी थी if I didn't get this push because of the pandemic. So kind
made
of like
you-
a bittersweet sort of
Right.
situation that it happened. Now, you know, it's like a backup situation wherever ये कभी भी होता है खुदा ना खास्ता ऐसा तो there's going to be something that is happening on that, and something that I enjoy doing.
Right.
So, I mean, not having a job can be challenging, especially for parents who are very supportive. They're extremely supportive what I do, but sometimes there are no events, you know, there's just no
Yeah.
events. तो बस फिर आप बैठे होते हैं
Right.
और आपको कुछ करने को नहीं होता और कोई इनकम भी नहीं आ रही होती.
Right.
तो फिर थोड़ा सा, and for someone like myself who's earned his money from
A very
while I
young
was
age.
at
Right.
college, right? So
Right. It's a hard life, though.
it's a hard life.
It's a hard
Because
life.
constantly you have to be on the go,
Yeah.
searching for opportunities and
Right. And you know, you have to be that. You have to push yourself to do
yeah.
stuff. I mean, आपको कोई डेडलाइन किसी ने नहीं देनी, आपने
नहीं.
अपने आप को देनी है.
बिल्कुल.
कि okay, you have to you know cold call people or you know.
कभी एमी बैठ के प्रपोजल्स बनाने
Yeah.
लग जाते हो आप एमी कुछ
Yeah.
नहीं भी हो रहा होता बस तो बिकॉज़ जो वेला तो चलो लेट्स स्टार्ट कोई हाथ पांव मारे तो कुछ मिलेगा.
Right.
तो इस तरह भी होता है तो इसलिए अब and then you know there are times you just have to kind of you basically keep hustling.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. Oh, that's been a long journey. The brain thug gaya. Like from the beginning till the end, I've lived my life.
Relived
So,
it.
Relived it. Twice today, actually.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Imtisal.
This is a lot of fun.
It is absolutely, because you know the interviews that I had read,
Mm-hmm.
the articles on you, and they were also repetitive.
Mechanical,
They were,
repetitive.
and they were, I mean, they cover
And they cover everything,
your story,
but-
your story,
yeah,
your
yeah.
journey, but in a very, you know, kind of. There weren't any layers.
No.
And I was like, yeah, I want to know deeper, man. कि किया
No,
कैसे?
this is. Thank you for getting in touch. This was a lot of fun, and I had a great time.
Thank
what,
you.
So, what you edit this now, and then it kind of comes up?
Yep.
Or? Okay, great.
Yep.
So this is for you. Thank you very much. I'm gonna
Thank
quickly
you.
rush for Aftari. I'll see you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks. Bye bye. Did I just do that?
What did you do? It wasn't recording? I have no issues talking about myself all day.